Harav YCD. Welcome back to Yerushalmi Shabbos. We are designing a base, and we are Halacha Yud, Perishon Halacha Yud. Now we've spoken about how there are cases where Beis Shammai allow you to do some malachas before Shabbos, which carry on Shabbos, and there's a case where Beis Hillel don't allow you. So that's what we're going to see now. Do not roast meat, onions, eggs on a Friday unless it's properly roasted before Shabbos comes in. Don't put the bread in the oven just before it gets dark. Or cake on the coals. It must develop a crust before Shabbos comes in on all sides. And no, the bottom part of it has to develop a crust. So here, again, the worry of this meat and the egg is you're going to stoke up the coals. You're going to see it's not baking properly. You'll move the food from side to side. You'll want to hurry the roasting process. So it's got to develop a certain level of roasting, right? How much is needed? Rabbi Yehuda says it's got to be fully roasted. Rav Mana holds Machal ben Derusai is enough. Okay, there are cases. It depends on the process of the roasting. Let's see what we got here. So now, Ein Salim Basa. So don't put the meat unless it's got time to roast before Shabbos comes in. Rabbi Bumbak Harav Shem Rabbanon. Tafshil Sheis Bashal Kol Tzaka. Fully cooked food. You can put it on the oven, on the coals, even though they're not covered in ash. Just like you can put meat if it's reached a certain stage of roasting. So you can allow to be shaya, to leave a food on the coals where they've not been covered with ash, a food which is a cooked food, which is fully cooked. Now, so you want to say just like roasting, fully roasted is okay, so fully cooked is okay. Reb Zeira Boy, he asked, how can you compare the din of a pot with a din, with a fully cooked food to meat which is roasted? So these three things, any extra additional cooking, this stomach virala, it ruins them. So there's no worry that you're going to stoke up the coals. So but a pot that's cooking, extra cooking with stomach v'yafale would improve the taste. So we should be worried you'll stoke up the coals. And you want to say that they're both the same. So he says, maybe the words of Chachamim who compare them were only said elachabin, with hot water. Hot water is like meat. It's not going to improve with the extra cooking. So just like our Mishnah allows you to leave things on the coals, the meat which is roasted, so also you can leave, let's say, an urn on the kira which hasn't been covered, but maybe a food that improves, the Chachamim might agree that it's forbidden to leave it there. Also, Rabbi Shmuel, he said, Chamin, Choch, Mukatzakan, food that's fully cooked, water really, hot water, even that, you should not leave on the coals if it's not been covered over with ash, even though the additional cooking will ruin it. Okay, Rabbi Bibi, now what about food that's been moved from the kira? What about returning it? Rabbi Bibi Shem Rabbi Yochanan, so it's a meat food, ox food, and it was cooked just ben derasai, which is maybe either a third or a half. You're allowed to return it. Agabe kira ketuma, on an oven which is where the ashes are covering the coals. It's considered cooked. Vasi, we don't pass it like that. Vasi, and that fits in. Kaido Ama, Rabbi Yaakov Arachas Rabbi Yochanan, Hashayfes, one who puts a kedera, which has got food which is not cooked, Agabe Gechalim on the coals, Masrin by, we warn him, Geshi's Bashel, when it gets cooked, Kachilas Ben Drusai, and that he'll be chayv, he'll be liable. If he leaves it to get to the stage of Machman Drusai, he'll be liable for cooking. And just like bishul leading up to that is considered cooking, so when it's already at that stage, then it's considered cooked. And you're allowed to return it back onto a kira who's got the ashes covering the flame. Now, discussing a tavshil, putting it back on a kira, what about a kira which hasn't been covered? Rav Achav Shrav Tanchum B'Achia B'Shem Rav Shimon B'Revi Chamin Shuch Mukad Tzarkan. He said water that's fully cooked. Again, you can put that back on an oven where the coals haven't been covered up. Rav Zira Boy, he asked, now the din of water, lashos, it was also to leave it on a kira, even to leave it before Shabbos is forbidden. To return it on Shabbos is permitted. How can that be? Maybe it was only said, Ela Pesach. Maybe you're returning a common Pesach that was fully roasted to an oven which the coals are not covered. As we find, also Pesach Shanisa Kosok. If it's fully roasted, Mutan al Zero, you're allowed to put it back onto the coals. Okay? Pesach is different. Other foods you can't put it back in a tanur. Come Pesach you can. And although our Mishnah forbids you to roast meat on Erev Shabbos unless it roasts properly before Yom Shabbos comes in, Kom Pesach is different because the Chabura are very zrizin. Yeah, they're very careful and very particular, and therefore they're not going to stoke up the coals. And this klal applies also for returning the Pesach to the Tanur on Shabbos. Even though you can't return it to a kira, let's say water that's fully cooked, you're allowed to return the Kom Pesach, which is fully roasted, because again the Chabura are very careful in keeping all the halachas of Kom Pesach. Hey, nice then. Yes. Pasta Tanur. Don't put the bread into the oven unless it develops a crust before Shabbos comes in. Now Mishnah allowed meat, providing their roast beforehand. Bread we allow as long as it develops a crust, even though it's not fully baked. Rav Yaakov Barach of Shem His reason is the women are very proficient in baking their bread, and there's no worry that they're going to start stoking up the coals for it to bake well, and therefore we did not require it to be fully baked before Shabbos comes in. Ma ben pas, ma ben tavshel. What's the difference between the two? Tavshel, a cooked food, you eat it when it's hot, so that they might stoke the coals to hurry up the cooking, and we're worried they'll do it on Shabbos. Whereas pas, with bread, it's not the way to eat it when it's boiling, and even a weekday, it's not the derech to stoke it up on coals in order to hurry the baking. You know, it might bake too much, might heat up too much. There's no chashash that you'll do this on Shabbos. The reason doesn't apply. Taman Amrin in Babel said, they used to say, pas chama, if you had very hot bread, chamasa b'tzida, it brings a sort of temperature. And the refuah for tzira, for having being bitten by some sort of wasp of some kind, soinin is to have a cold food. And the refuah for scorpion, akrab, is chamin, is you should have a hot food. And mandem machalif sakon, if you change them around, the various medicines for different things, then it's a bit dangerous. Now, baking bread, Tanakama, you're going to have enough time to get a crust everywhere. A crust on the base, right? There is a din where Beleza agrees that it's not Maida Beleza belechem apanim. He agrees with the lechem apanim she'eina kruya lechem achikmu kol panim. All the different sides have to develop a crust. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's carry on. So now they used to have ovens where they had openings from the top. So they were lowering down the Kom Pesach Letanur into an oven on a Friday, Im Chashecha, just before it gets dark. Although it will roast on Shabbos, you don't have to worry that the Kom Pesach will stoke it up. People to hurry up the roasting. And also you can light a bit of fire, but Meduras Beis HaMoikad, with the wood of the Beis HaMoikad, that was that area in the Beis Mikdash before on Friday before it get dark. Right, we're not worried. Maybe you'll start stoking up the coals after it gets dark. But outside the Beis Mikdash, you cannot light a bonfire, whatever it is, unless there's enough time. Basically, you need most of the wood to catch light, and the flame should develop from there. Rabbi Yehuda said, even bebechomin, if you lit it with sort of charcoals, you can light it before Shabbos. Even only kol shein, even a small bit of it will catch light before Shabbos comes in. Why is that? Bebechomin, even a tiny bit gets caught alight, it doesn't go out so easily. It will burn properly. Okay? Right. We've learned with the roasting the Kom Pesach when it fell on when Erev Pesach fell on a Shabbos, right, which is like this year. Chashecha, when it gets dark, Shabbos has gone out. Yad, so they all go, but Solos V'Schein, they roast the Kom Pesach. So you see, they waited to take it out until Shabbos went out. Even though the issur to take it out is only rabbinical, but they were careful with Kom Pesach even with Drabanot. And here, you allow me to bring it into the oven on Erev Shabbos just to close it getting dark, and it will be roasted on Shabbos. Usually the Chachamim forbade putting things in an oven before it gets dark, and here they did it. Rabbi Yossi said, if the Chachamim were worried, you're right, they were worried about rabbinical dinim. Now, to put the Pesach into the oven and carry on roasting, they didn't forbid it because Chabur's Rizatain, the groups, are very careful. They're not going to stoke up the coals. Now, we bring a brisa which limits the heter. Let's see. If they did it Pesach, they roasted the Kom Pesach before, while it was daytime, and then it turns out that it's not fully roasted, Malzira ad Shalem. If it's still whole, you can put it back in the oven on Friday to carry on roasting. But you cannot return it mechutach if it's been cut up. He said you cannot return a Kom Pesach cut up, but they're worried it will lead it to being pasul. Oh, Rabbi Yossi, but yos, it's right that we have to worry it become pasul if we allow you to return it cut up. Because la'achlai, when it's not fully roasted, enad yachal, you can't eat it in that state. The Chassidus says, and also it's lesson to carry on roasting it, enad yachal, you can't. It shouldn't look like you're beginning the roasting process for Shabbos on Shabbos. So you're stuck, basically. This is the Enum Mavushal. So he says here that usually the Chachamim allow you to return it to an oven, even though usually you can't do it, you might stoke up the coals. A food which is roasted machal ben drusai, they will only lenient with Kom Pesach, because then the korban is already fully roasted and everyone's zoriz, they won't stoke up the coals, and so on. Alright, but if it's not fully roasted and it's got other food, then you can't put it back in the fire because it will get roasted. Even if it's roasted machal ben drusai, it looks like you're roasting it on Shabbos. Okay. Now, the issur to return the Kom Pesach when it's cut up, and that will stop the korban becoming pasul. How is that? Because you're saying that it's permitted to return the broken Kom Pesach in the oven, what's going to happen? The owner of the animal, he won't roast it as much as it needs before Yom Shabbos comes in. Because he thinks, if it's not properly roasted, I'll do it then. And the korban will come l'dei psul. But now we tell him you're not allowed to return it back. They cut up one into the oven close to Shabbos. He'll make sure he roasts it properly in the afternoon. He asked, if Tzalaya, you've roasted it all fully, shalem, while it was whole, and then you took it out of the oven and you cut it, can you put it back in the oven to heat it up? Is that forbidden? Or maybe the heter, the chazara, will not cause you to be, it's not going to lead to l'dei psul. Maybe it's not forbidden. Very good question. We have no answer. They didn't like you to return the korban, which was cut up, into the oven on a Friday, because they're worried you'll take it out from the oven with a kavanah to cut it up to see if it's roasted properly. And in the end, you'll find out it won't get fully roasted, and you'll forget to send it back, and the korban will become pasul. Okay, right. Now, you're not allowed to light a menorah outside the Beis Mikdash on the Friday, unless it catches with most of the wood, the fire. There are various cases. Rab Zira, Rab Yehuda, V'Shem Rab, Arba Meduros, these 4 bonfires, now they're not in the Beis Mikdash, we're allowed to light them on Erev Shabbos, even if the fire goes Kol Haloshon on the small bit. Meduros HaGefes, which is the waste of the olives, which is dry. Meduros HaZevel, of the manure. Meduros HaChelev, of the fat. And Meduros Galinin, and these are the pips of the dates that are dried. That's permitted, even if the fire just catches before Shabbos Kol Haloshon with a small bit. And the reason is because these flammable goods, that they burn very quickly, and we're not worried that there's no worry that they might not burn properly. Okay, Rabbi Bar b'Shem Rochia Barashi Chaisel, which is like a sort of a basket, which is made from palm leaves, Shul Mole Galinim, full of these date pips which have dried out. So then, as long as it's you want to burn it, as long as the fire catches a bit of it, kol shein, the small bit, yeah, then that's good enough, right? And providing the dates pips are in the basket. So the date pips which are dry, which you lit on Erev Shabbos close to getting dark, if they are all next to each other, you've got to have enough time that the fire catches hold before Shabbos Baruban, and the majority of them. If they're scattered in the basket, you've got to have enough time that the fire should catch before Shabbos Barov Kol Preda, the majority of every single pip. Ma'o Palik, is he going against the first din we said in his name, which allowed a basket full of these pips, even if the fire only catches some of them? So the Gemara answers, Khan, that which Rabbi said, you can light the garine tamarim, in the basket, even if the fire catches only a small bit, is bibrios, where they're completely dry, so the fire catches them very easily. The Khan, and when we said you don't have enough time for the fire to catch the majority of them, but tashos, that is the ones which are not so dry. They've got some moisture, and the fire won't catch so easily. Okay, another case where you can light an Erev Shabbos Madura outside the base of Mikdash, even you're not going to catch Rive. Rabbi Yosef Shem Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Hanani Amati Babas Shem Rab Charayos. So these are palm leaves, milamata. So it's like a fire which has got palm leaves below, but eitzim, another wood above, milmala. Kivan sha'ala ha'or ben time. When the fire goes in between them, butter, then you can leave it to burn before Shabbos, even if it's not caught the majority of everything. Rachab of Shem Ravona, kaira, and a beam, which you need the fire to catch it. Baruba, with the majority. Barova kefa, it needs to be the most of the circumference of the beam. Ma barova kefa, what do you mean with that? Mavakemecha doesn't mean in one place. Or barova kefa of kulam, maybe the majority of its circumference. Ashkav tzadi, we've learned. Ajti pasa malasas malacha, providing. But tonight that there's time that the fire will get hold of it, you won't be able to do any work with it. So you need the fire to be barov hekavako, right? The majority of the circumference. You don't need to be. It's just the majority of the circumference in one place. That's all that's needed. It's not shaykh that it should be puzzle unless it's b'chol ha'korah barov. It's got to be majority of it. Okay. You're allowed to light on a Friday a fire from the pechamim, from the charcoal. Kinimas, this is the way to learn. After pechamim, even you can light these things after pechamim, even with this charcoal. You're allowed to light it on the Friday if the fire catches by the yom. Kol shehen, even on any smaller splits. Okay, Hadron Lachas is Shabbos. Let's carry on. Now, the takana was to light Neres Chanukah, Neres Shabbos, where you have your meal. Right, it's mitzvah divrei la'aneg is the Shabbos, and the psila, the wick, has to be something that burns well, and the oil has to be good oil. So what can you use for your oil and for your wicks, and what can you not use? Don't use. This is like a wall which you find in the cedar tree between the bark, some sort of base of some kind. You find it between the bark and the tree. Which is flax, which has not been spun. Kalach, which is the waste of a silk. Which is a wall which comes in the willow tree between the bark of the tree. Which is the grass that grows in the desert. Some sort of vegetable, we'll see. Now, you should not use, for the oil, you should not use Loba Zephes, pitch, Loba Shava or wax, Loba Shemen Kik. We'll see what the Shemen Kik is. We'll bring various prushim on that. Loba Shemen Tzreifa, that's not oil of Truma Tameh, which needs to be oiled. Loba Aliyah, don't use the fat of a tail of a sheep. But Loba Chelev, other forbidden fats. Nachman Madiyam, he said, Malikin V'chedim Abushal. You can use fat which has been cooked. Whether it's cooked or not, you cannot use it. He said lechesh is luksha. It's this base which is found at the tree of the cedar wood between the bark and the tree. He says it's dadinoin. It's dadinoin. Armin, they said here, it's the same thing. This has the same name in different places. The the flax which has not been spun, Kamoda Atama, like it says in the Pasuk, the strongest one would be Lenairis, which is weak. You see, Chesed means flax. Loba Kalach, what is that? Anbim Kisarai. It's the waste of silk which comes from Kisri. I asked all the sailors, and I asked them, what is klach? What's it called? They said, it's called kolcha. Now kolcha, klach, that is its name. Some say it's a soft golden thing which grows on the rocks in the sea, and it looks like wool. Okay. What is that? Iranisa, which is the wood of the willow, and it's got some sort of material between the wood and the bark. Kishmua, like what it means, it's the one that grows in the desert and it's a long grass. Kitan, which is sort of garments of linen, of linen which grows on the water. Until now, until the Yerushalmi and Penei Hamayim, we've been talking about things you can't use for wicks. Now we're going to talk about things which you cannot use for oil. The reason why you can't light these psilas in the oil is because the fire jumps around, doesn't burn well. And we're worried he'll take out the wick to improve it. But another reason is a problem. They don't burn well. You wouldn't have caught the fuel with that when you lit it at the beginning of the wick, which was there to burn. We're worried that the flame will go out. There was the Irabai. He asked me, if that's the case, should we say that every wick, every psila which you light on Shabbos, even if it's from the wicks which are kosher for lighting, do you need to light them? To get most of this fuel, do you need to do that before Shabbos comes in? Most of the burning thing has to catch light. Ask for sure. He said, yeah, every wick, most of it has to sort of catch light before Shabbos comes in. The people asked, well, but with the beam, the din is, as long as the fire's caught the circumference before Shabbos, even though it hasn't caught the most of the bit which is burning. So Gemara asks, some learn it's a sort of oil in a glass. The fire hasn't caught hold of everything before Shabbos comes in. Why is it permitted? So it's 4 types of fires, where you only need the fire to catch a tiny bit. Right? Meduras hagefes, the one of the waste of the olives, Meduras hazevel, of the manure, Meduras hachelev, of the fats, Meduras galinin, which is the dried dates. So in all these, as long as the fire's got kol shehein, that's good enough. If they burn well, and you don't have to worry they'll go out. And the same thing then with shishisa. You don't have to burn the whole majority of it. There's no chashash it will go out. But other types of wicks, you have to catch the majority. Now the Gemara brings a proof for the other pshat why these wicks and oils are possible for lighting. But another reason why you can't use these wicks and oils, because the fire didn't burn catch most of it. Min adam, from the following, didn't Rebbe teach us Shabbos shechal alias b'Chanukah that when Shabbos falls during Chanukah, you cannot light the Chanukah with wicks and oil, which is possible for Shabbos, right? You can't use that for Chanukah either. Right? On Shabbos Chanukah. Okay. And now what's the problem? Also, Lirais, my bear Chanukah, you're not allowed to look at coins with the light of the Chanukah. Why should you come and bring out the wick? You're not allowed to use that fire. So why is it also to use the wick? For the sake of lighting Chanukah on Shabbos. You have to say, the only reason is because most of it didn't catch light before Shabbos. It's the oil that you bring from cotton. It comes from a bird. They get this oil from this bird. It's called cake. He learned which is mentioned in the list of the Talmud birds. Zel kik, this is this bird which we're talking about. That's oil of truma, of tamea, which needs burning. Now, as opposed to other oils, it does burn well. So why is it forbidden? The reason is it mustn't be burnt on Shabbos, even if it's done on Erev Shabbos. It mustn't burn during Shabbos. Right? Amram Chista. So there's a measure. Also the Hatzis Esaor. Don't start on Friday lighting the fire b'mduras kodshim with kodshim which is puzzle, and it will carry on burning. So why is it forbidden Truma Tzmeah to be burnt on Shabbos, even though you did everything before? The reason is, since it's tameh, it's a mitzvah to burn it. They're worried you'll be so enthusiastic to do the mitzvah of burning, you'll bend the nair, so it should burn quicker, and you'll be over on it on Shabbos. But we've learned in Machiz and Esahur, we put the fire on Erev Shabbos based on Moed in the base of Mikdash. We don't worry there. It won't burn well the wood, and you'll come stoking it up. But outside the base of Mikdash, you do have to do it in a way that has to burn properly before Shabbos comes in. We need the majority of the wood to catch light. Otherwise, we're worried it won't burn properly, and you'll come to break Shabbos. So you see, with Kohanim, there's no chashash that they'll come and light the fire on Shabbos because they're very careful. I think we can say that again. You see that with Kohanim, the Kohanim are very careful. And why is it asked to light Shemen Sreifa or Kodshim Psulim on Friday? Because there we are worried, it seems, that a Kohen will come to... So why are we worried with Shemen Sreifa? It seems Kohanim are very reliable, aren't they, everyone? Kohanim are very reliable, so what's the problem? So he says there's another reason why, according to Rav Chisda, you cannot light Kodshim Psulim or Truma Tzmeah on a Friday, even though they'll carry on burning. Our Rav Yosef, but Shabbos Ksiv says, Lo yisasek malacha, you mustn't do work on Shabbos, but Nazir Malek can come out of his own accord, and that's all very well. But as far as burning Kodshim, which is possible, HaTorah Amra, Ein Sofen es HaKodshim, the Torah said, don't burn Kodshim b'Yom Tov. It's not allowed to be burning on Yom Tov, even though you did an action before Yom Tov. But Ein Tzarech Leima b'Shabbos, and definitely the same thing with Shabbos. So it's something Truma Tzmeah. It mustn't be burning on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So you mustn't light Ner Shabbos with Shemen Sreifa, because it mustn't burn on Shabbos. Now, what's the source that you can't burn Kodshim Psulim on Yom Tov? Because it says with Kom Pesach, don't leave it to the morning, yeah? Whatever's left to the morning, unless you have to burn it in fire. Ad Boker refers to a second morning. It's not burnt on the Yom Tov morning if you left it overnight, yeah? It's burnt on the Chol Hamoed morning, right? The second morning. After the morning of the 15th, the morning of the 16th. So don't burn it until after dawn of the 16th. Now, if the reason is you can't burn it on Yom Tov, why wait till the morning of the 16th? You could burn it the night before, right? What's Yom Tov? You see, there's another thing, you have to wait to do it in the morning. Not because you can't burn Kodshim on Yom Tov. So therefore the Gemara brings, it says about Naisa from Shlamim is burnt when it becomes Naisa, but not that night. It says B'yom HaShlishi, right, on the third day. It says the din, you cannot, not only don't burn Kodshim on Shabbos, Yom Tov, you don't burn it at night. So the Kom Pesach, the reason why you have to wait till burning it till the 16th in the morning, because you cannot burn Kodshim on Yom Tov, and this one you can't burn it on Motzi Yom Tov, because you cannot burn Kodshim at night. That's like we find with the Shlamim. You follow? So that's why we have to burn it the following day. Why are you allowed to make the fire b'mduras chometz? What about Erev Pesach with the chometz bonfire? Can you do that? The one who learns it from Naisa, also you can't do it. If you don't, most of that is permitted. We can learn you're allowed to make a fire on Friday with kodshim, which is possible, even though it's going to carry on burning. He says you can burn these things on Erev Shabbos to carry on burning. But today we've learned so he says you can't burn it on Yom Tov. So in Yom Tov you can't burn Shemen Sreifa, but it seems you can do on Erev Yom Tov. Now even though the oil is going to carry on burning, the same with Shabbos. You're allowed to burn Shemen Sreifa on a Friday and it will carry on burning. And since Kodshim Pasul is like Truma Tzmeah, he says you can make a fire with the Pasul Kodshim on Erev Shabbos, and it will carry on burning. But why does the Mishnah say you can't use Shemen Sreifa? The Hadlaka is done on the Friday. The answer is, Mishnah's talking about a case where Yom Tov's on the Friday, and then you cannot use Shemen Treifa for Ner Shabbos because you can't burn Truma Tmeah on Yom Tov. But a normal Friday, you'd be allowed to burn Ner Chanukah for Shemen Treifa, make the Ner Shabbos rather with Shemen Treifa, even though the Neros will carry on burning on Shabbos. Now, according to Betula Shos Rav Chisda, it comes out that burning Truma Tmeah is the same as Kodshim, which is Pasul. Me'ata, you want to equate the two, then it should be She'ein Malik and Shemen Treifa B'Laila. You shouldn't burn Shemen Treifa at night because you can't burn Kodshim at night. Hashem Shein Sor is a Kodshim B'Laila, so they should have the same din. Rabbi Yochanan, Yadel Avshidus of Yishmael. The Mishnah went to follow Rabbi Yishmael. Kamad Yishmael Lama, just like he says with Mila. Now it's meant to be on its right time on the 8th day, but that's in the day and not night. Tinok She'ibaz Manai, a child that was a bit late to be born, and let's say that the Mila rather was late, and it wasn't Nimo, maybe if it's after the 8th day, this opinion holds you can have a bris day or night. So also, if Nicer is being burnt, Avazmana, the time that has gone by, the L'chatchila time to burn it, it can be burnt day or night, once it's gone past its time. And what reason is there on the Shemen Treifa? Why should it be She'ibaz Mana that the time's gone by that you're allowed to burn it at night? I mean, it doesn't have a fixed time for Treifa. If you're about Pazim, because it's become Tameh, Kvisha Avaz Mana. It's already the time gone by. The Torah never fixed the time for destroying it. And when it becomes Tameh, you should burn it. Once that time has gone by, it's La'achaz Mana, and then it's kosher even at night. Tani Rabbi Yossi led Kume Rabbi Yochanan, Menan L'chalin Umaylim. Anyone who has a bris, even after a day 8, Shleini Bonim Elabayim has to be in the day, Tamalem Oviyom. It says Oviyom. Amal Rabbi Yochanan, Yesh Kanzu. Is that true? That a Mila which is late is only in the day? Right? Now, so he's got that question here. Is that true that Mila is only in the day? Some learners say this was a Chiddush from Rabbi Yochanan, that there's a brisa arguing Rabbi Shmuel. And he wanted to say, yeah, Mila is mitzvah mutter in the, why should maybe Mila is in the day? All right, let's carry on. Now, actually this is a new piece. Let me just see this on the note. The Bavli also brings Rabbi Lezer taught Rabbi Yochanan this brisa, with a yom, the Mila which is late has to be in the day. This was the Chiddush in the eyes of Rabbi Yochanan. Some learn Rabbi Yochanan yesh kam bazu. Mila Shloi Bizmana is only in the day. Maybe Leil Shmini he can't have it, but maybe after day 8 he can even have it at night. That's what his question is. Okay, fine. I think we will. We'll stop here on this one. Okay.